What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Shirley. Oh my gosh, it's been a while, hasn't it? I know.
Mhm.
I was setting this conversation up, and it told me that the last time that I went live was last year in October. And well, now we're in November, but I'm so happy to be here to have this amazing, super important conversation about what any and everything related to BBPA. If you're not aware, Black Business and Professional Association has had allegations in terms of seriously about how they've been managing the money. It has not been positive. The past president has been put, and the members, some of the executive members have been put into question in terms of like, I don't know if you don't know, but Canada provided, what was it, like good 2 years ago, just a little bit around COVID, um, basically working with nonprofit organization, Black nonprofit organization to provide money in order to help Black businesses, and BBPA was one of them. Now it was put into question: where did that money go? How was it used? Who has used it? Has had access to it? All of these have been put into question. So there was like an audit that brought a lot of things into light, and if you don't know, then definitely Google BBPA allegations. I know By Blacks was huge in terms of bringing this to light, which other platforms or medias have basically looked into it as well. But By Blacks was really where this information was put out first. And today I have Angelina Williams with me. She is an entrepreneur. She's the CEO of Skylar. What is the name of it? Sorry, Skylar
Other
Project. There we
project.
go. So yes, so she's the CEO of Skylar Project. She brings extensive hospitality industry expertise. And also, she has been past chair of the Harry Jerome Awards. If you don't know, that is definitely an event, an award ceremony that was organized, that still is organized by BBPA. Thank you so much, Angelina, for this conversation. Because I know a lot of us, and you've been instrumental. I know you're one of the few who's been instrumental to basically continue to provide information or follow up on what's going on, and really bringing to light what's happening and place accountability for an organization like that. So thank you so much. um, I mean, there's so many. First of all, for some of the people who don't know what's happening, can you share with me some of the allegations that was brought up to light thanks to a media platform like By Blacks?
First, thanks for having me. Yeah, we started this conversation, you and I. I think we did an IG live over the summer. I think it was earlier in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really quiet since. So I think we're nearing some sort of resolution. So I wanted to make sure that I was a person of integrity and kind of came back to your followers and viewers and kind of provide a bit of an update. There will be an additional update, of course, with Dr. Vibe tomorrow at 5 p.m. on his platform with one of the directors of the board at the BEPA.
Mm-hmm.
I do see that some folks are messaging that they are having a challenge with seeing the live. So I don't know if we're live on all
Yeah,
now.
that's what I'm seeing too. So hold on a second.
So just before I dive in, I'm just gonna, yeah, make sure that
Yeah, let's. Okay, I see why. Because of the QEE. Move on a second. How do I Okay, there we go. There we go. Technology.
Listen, the last time we tried to go live, I missed the whole live.
That was really weird. Like, I feel like, I don't know, it was too strange for me. Like, there we go. Now we are live. Hi, everybody on Instagram. Hello, Instagram world.
Let me see if I can jump on IG and see if I can.
There we go. We see you, frequency promotions. Dr. Can you guys hear us? Can you hear us? Just want to make sure. They should be.
Well, I see it on my phone, so that's good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the Instagram live people, we're just about to have a conversation. So a little bit of education for people who have no idea. Hi, awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for letting us know. They could hear us on Instagram. Frequency event promotion. Thank you so much. So we were about to dive into first, for if you didn't know and you need to know, what was the allegation that occurred or have been brought up to light thanks to amazing platforms and media like By Blacks when it comes to BBPA, when it comes to Black Business and Professional Association?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be fair, there are members of the organization. BBPA is a member-based organization. They have a board, kind of governs the operations of the organization. There was an AGM, and some members noticed irregularities or questions in the accounting, and they called for answers. The response to that call was concerning, very, very concerning. And thank God we have a community publication like By Blacks that we trust and operates with really great journalistic integrity and really acts as a voice for the community. And they, along with CBC, because CBC released an article first, and then kind of did a deeper dive into it, and then CBC released a few more articles after that.
Okay.
And again, the story just kept on growing and growing and growing. Just really saying, hey, the community, the Black Canadian community, to be more specific, received these funds to advance Black businesses. Where the, I guess you say, governance of organizations like the BBPA, there were a number of organizations that received millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars across the community. But specifically the BBPA, I think they received from different organizations and ministries upwards of $10 million. And just noticing that, some folks were feeling that there wasn't a lot of growth in from that money, right? So seeing that, monies were paid out to board members and relatives of board members, and companies connected to board members, past board members, current board members. It really kind of let people say, hey, what's going on here? Because, we still have businesses, worthwhile businesses that are struggling, and we're seeing that these massive contracts are being given to people that are really close to the organization, actually working for the organization.
Yeah.
That's kind of what sparked it. And certain people resigned. Certain people were asked to step aside while a third-party investigation took place by the current sitting board. And I'm trying to be mindful with my words here, but I think there's a lot of people that are questioning how that investigation took place and whether or not there was full transparency while that investigation was happening. I appreciate that this is a volunteer board. The board that's currently sitting is a volunteer board. So to engage in such a lofty mission and you have your own business or your own job to do is not easy. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To kind of dig deep and figure out exactly what was happening. But yeah, so, the current board engaged in an investigation, and I believe the investigation is complete. I believe there's other investigations happening from other, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that there is an investigation or an audit, I should say. I shouldn't use the term investigation because I know people like, oh my gosh, but I believe there is an audit from certain ministries, government ministries, and the CRA included, get deeper and figure out exactly what has been going on and kind of dig deeper into these allegations. But I believe that the one that the board started is complete, and I do believe that the membership should be hearing from the board really, really soon.
So right now, who are the executives? Is there an executive? Is there an interim?
Yeah, so there is this existing board, unfortunately, right? I think that's a concern that a lot of people have, is that now, when the bulk of the money was spent or contracts were awarded, this current board was not in place. However, there are still some questionable activities that took place while this current board is in place. And I believe, in my opinion, this is Angelina's opinion, I believe the response to the allegations from this existing board were really questionable and concerning. So even though the bulk of the funds were not distributed while this board was in place, the response to the public when the inquiry was made from the existing board doesn't allow people to feel confident that the existing board can continue on in leading the organization to stiller waters, right? Like it's been really challenging because, again, it's been really quiet. And I know investigation is going on. It's very difficult to provide answers because it's an ongoing process. But I think that the community really wanted to hear from the organization while this was happening. There's a lot of, assumptions and allegations and conjecture and, gossip and, stories being told. The things I've heard, right? People calling me say, Angelina, is this true? I'm like, that is so far from being true. And I'm not here to necessarily defend this board, but come on, right? And I'm here, really, my desire is to defend the organization. And so by staying quiet for so long, you have people kind of filling in the blanks and, in my opinion, further causing harm to the organization, the reputation of the organization, right? So, that's kind of the concern about the existing, one of the concerns with the existing board.
So I see a lot of interims, like in terms of like vice chair and the current chair at the moment. So
they were already board members, but because the chair at the time that the allegations were brought to the public was part of the old board that awarded the contracts.
Got it.
That chair need to step aside.
Got it. So anyone that was
a few things that I think that the board actually did well. Like they said, okay, listen, you were here when all this stuff was going on. You were the chair when all this stuff was going on. Essentially the head of the ship. Listen, we can't do this investigation and have this investigation led by you. So you got to step aside. So I do actually appreciate that they did that at least. Okay. So any board members that were, I think there was maybe 3 or 4 board members that were a part of the previous board, those persons either have resigned or have stepped aside while the investigation is taking place.
So everyone we see, like the current board members or board of directors that we see on the, from the website are pretty would you say pretty new, pretty fresh? That's the
That's the thing. Like, I think that we
not new
have
in terms of obviously
new for the
experience, but yeah.
new for the organization. That's the tricky thing about it, right? Because when you're talking about governance and you are stepping onto a board, you really have to do your research, right? Before you accept any board position, you have to do your research. I know people love to say, well, I sit on this board and I sit on that board. And, because this board has, this legacy of 40 years of wonderful things in the community and so on and so forth. It's kind of like a bow in your bonnet and but you have to do your research. You have to kind of understand the types of responsibilities and liability, one could even say, that you incur when you're sitting on a board, right? So it kind of doesn't matter that they are just now coming on. When I think just now, I mean, I think the current board was elected in 2023, end of 2023.
Yes. Yeah. I think it was like it said January or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea that, beginning of 2023, I think that's what it was, right? So the idea that, they're new and therefore they hold no responsibility, that's not how it works. Especially because some of the activity, even though they might not have voted on awarding the contracts, some of the activity that was taking place while they were during their tenure, while they were on the board, right? And so I think that it's important for people to understand that how you respond to a crisis is equally as important as like preventing the crisis or what caused the crisis. How you respond is really important. And I think that's my concern, is the response to the crisis. I think it's a crisis. I mean, I don't think it's that you can't work around or work through, I should say. I think that it's repairable, but it's still a crisis. It's a crisis for the organization. It's a crisis for our community, I think. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Well, speaking of community, there's a sense, I know that the first time this was brought to light, I'm not sure, but there was a sense of like some entrepreneurs who are aware on the importance of this organization, on how important this whole allegation is. But there are many who I felt that many in our community, maybe because they don't know the importance of what, why this organization was created, how important it is for our community. And there was a sense of like, well, they don't do nothing for me or my business. You know what I mean? So I guess the question is, why should we care about what, I know that's a kind of like, we get a deep dive, but there was this sense where some people is like, well, I don't really know what BBPA is about or what will it do for me? Why was it even established? So everything that's going on, why should I care?
Yeah, there's a couple ways I want to answer that. I think one, valid, that feeling of why should I care? What have you done for me lately? Is a pulse check for the relevance of the BBPA. And I think the board should take those, like, why do I even care? That they should take that seriously.
Yeah.
They really should take that seriously. I think the fact that an investigation took place, that the articles were written, it made primetime news, is a good thing because it says that somebody still cares. Someone still cares. The moment that folks stop caring, the organization dies, right? And I trust and believe, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I believe that the organization can come back from this. I think the organization needs to reinvent itself.
Yeah.
The organization needs to reinvent itself. And this is a fantastic opportunity for it to do so. And also why it matters is because I think that with the climate that we're in, with a lot of organizations questioning where their next bag of funding is going to come from, fiscal responsibility is an entrepreneurial spirit. I saw someone posted something on IG a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago actually, saying that Black businesses or Black entrepreneurs need to move away from the nonprofit model and really understand that there's other ways to generate funding and kind of move away from this need to get government funding. I think it's important. I think we should get our slice of the pie. I've said that numerous times before. This is long overdue, right? But this funding is a real drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Kind of dealing with the concerns of the community. However, I think it's important for us to kind of look at even our nonprofits from an entrepreneurial standpoint, in terms of how can we provide servicing that will generate sustainable revenue so that you can operate and not like essentially lose your operating budget, and you could keep the doors open. And you, even if the government says, I'm not going to give you this $100,000 or $10 million, right? Concern is that the BBPA office at Eglinton and Oakwood in Little Jamaica has been vacant for a very long time.
Wow.
And the way that looks in this time of quote unquote scandal, right, and uncertainty, that's harmful. And I say these things not to inflame the situation, but I've walked in the community numerous times and I see that office looks abandoned, right?
Yeah.
And folks in the community that are needing the services of the BEPA are like, what's happening? Where are they? And I do believe there was a woman that was operating that office and doing a phenomenal job. The most positive reports or comments I've heard about the BEPA have been about that woman. And her name leaves me right now. I don't want to call the wrong name. If anybody knows her name, please tag her in the chat. But that woman really changed, or it had a positive impact to the community, right? And that's kind of what usually happens with organizations this size. But this is kind of further goes to the idea that this organization received this funding, could have really beefed up their operations and the services that they provided, and opted not to, that give hundreds of thousands of dollars one shot to persons that already work for the organization, making a decent salary themselves.
Yeah.
And now you have an empty office in a community that desperately needs this kind of representation, right? We look at the state of Little Jamaica and how quickly it's being gentrified. It's been closed, the streets have been closed for damn near 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the time that the BEPA could really be, bolstering these businesses. And, there's some really great activity happening there, but an organization that has the pedigree, I'll use that term, of the BEPA really could go a long way to servicing those businesses. It's empty.
Yeah. But yeah, it's first of all, it's wild to see how much Little Jamaica is being gentrified. I know like you and I, what we do is we speak to people of all sorts of culture outside of the Black community. And I am floored on the amount of people that are not part of our community that's moved in to that area. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and yeah, it's concerning, and it's sad, and it's like, anyway, that's a whole different conversation about
but we could go there, right?
Yeah.
We could go there. Because again, the BEPA was charged with aiding those businesses. There was funds received for the purpose of promoting and helping businesses in Little Jamaica. So we could go there. It's not,
So there's a connection.
100% there's a connection. 100%. And I think here's the thing. I have no ill feeling about different groups coming into the community. I think that culture is something that's supposed to be celebrated and enjoyed by all. The issue I have is that a number of the buildings in that neighborhood are not owned by Black or Jamaican people, right? They're a handful.
Yeah.
And there is a organization called, I believe, Toronto Black Urbanism.
Yes.
And they, a group of brilliant, passionate young people. I met with them at Studio M, which is a space run and operated by Masani Montague. Again, another just powerful community activator. She's a founder of Rasta Fest, for example, right? She does quite a bit in the community. But yes, so this organization is working really hard to establish a community land trust, right?
Yes.
Where, trying to get Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, Black investors to purchase as much of the real estate as possible, right? Because again, just not too far from Studio M, across the street, there is a company that purchased 2 rental buildings, and so it's like a half a block. Tear them down and put up condos. We're in a housing crisis, right?
Yeah.
We're in a financial tricky spot in our economy. So not everyone can afford the 10% down to purchase a condo, right? Rental units are still important. And if you're removing these rental units to put up condos, again, like these are things that, the BBPA could lend a voice to. This is the kind of advocacy that I believe that the BBPA should be involved in, right? And help these Black businesses invest in real estate in our neighborhoods so that we have a sense of ownership, or have a sense of home, right? We're actual, real heavy duty stakeholders in the progress of this community.
Yeah, for sure.
About when Randy's Patty closed and everyone was like, oh my goodness. Fortunately, it has been reopened and it was purchased by someone in the community. But again, I think something I talk about a lot is that succession planning.
Yeah.
Right? When our parents and grandparents retire or just pass on, who's there to kind of take it up again and make sure that the businesses stay running, that we, again, continue to purchase these spaces.
I see Chandy has a lot to say. He says, there's been a lack of transparency to the process. The current board continues to gaslight the truth as they are standing in the way of an independent audit. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then he adds, and don't realize that it's taxpayers' money supporting the uplifting of all Black communities, not the bank accounts of a few. Let's be real. I believe Chandy, we had a conversation. I think Chandy, yes, then when we went live and you were trying to get on, and he was instrumental. And I believe he was also instrumental into the article that's at By Blacks.
Right. And definitely, Chandran has definitely helped with the bringing light to a lot of this and has been a supporter of the Black community and a lot of Black businesses, a lot of Black women. Just he's really helped a lot in terms of just in numerous ways. I won't get into all the details or put him on blast, but he's right. I think that the concern is there is a lack of transparency, and when you push and ask for certain details to be shared, you're given a reason why the details can't be shared when it doesn't, there's not a lot of explanation. Again, I'm eager to see what the report says. I know from my conversations with certain board members, I won't be surprised if it's redacted, heavily redacted. It won't be, but given that there's other investigations still taking place, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, there's a lot of questions I have, about the report, the process of the report, what the scope of the investigation was, and just some peculiar overlap. Again, I won't get into it right now. I want to be able to ask that question directly to the vice chair when we are on Dr. Vibe, but there's some overlap. And again, I've had a lot of questions and a lot of conversations and more questions. So getting the report is important. I just also want to say, I had every intention of calling a emergency members meeting, and the conversation that I was having with one of the directors on the board, I repeatedly was told that the investigation was going to be completed in July, in August, in September, in October, or end of November now. Now, I'm sure that there is an explanation as to why the report has taken so long to be completed. But I think that and that's kind of why I delayed to call the meeting. Well, I couldn't call the meeting, but lobbied the board to call the meeting, requested the board call an emergency members meeting. I delayed because I was told like next week, in 2 weeks, this report's coming out. So why call a meeting if the report's coming out, right? And so I started to get really frustrated because again, folks are calling, right? And not everyone in the community feels like they have access to the board to ask questions. And this kind of passive way of like putting something on a website and saying, well, go to the website and the answers are there. That's, I think, disrespectful, because you're serving this community, right?
They should be doing what we're doing right now
on a regular basis.
Yeah, like
here's a weekly update.
Yeah. Or this is where we're at. We're
like
the report.
Update,
yeah.
Right?
This is what the board is looking like right at the moment. All these things.
Right. Just to kind of send people to go to a website is, I don't know. I think it's disrespectful. Right. And I don't think that the concerned members group offered to help. Right. Offered to be a part of the investigation and help to disseminate information and offer some feedback and guidance, because these members are actual members of the organization. So when the offer was made, it was like, yeah, we'll take you, but not you, right? So it was kind of, they wanted to pick and choose who they were engaging with, which is not fair and it's not right. So I think that there's a lot of missed opportunity, and there is harm done to the organization as well as the community by not engaging the community in this process.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been part of the BBPA. I've heard about it. I've been, wanting to learn to, like, as someone who, when I first moved here, gosh, it's been 8 years that I've moved back to Toronto from Montreal. And I was looking to, kind of build my brand and build like, okay, I want to build some kind of business behind what I'm doing with any and everything to not just Black Canadian creators, but the Chileno Network, and BBPA came up and I was like, oh, I should really look into it. And I felt like it's the accessibility, the ease to access or the ease to learn or find out was kind of repelled me a little bit, because I was like, this is too much. This is, and then maybe also there was a lot of like gossips and things like that were going on as well. So it was just, it was like, I was like, okay, I don't know if maybe that's not the organization for me in order to support where, building community, because it's one thing building a community, with people that's part of the same culture, you know what I mean, or heritage. Like my heritage is Haitian. That's easy. Like that's easy to do. But when you're an entrepreneur and you try to find people who look like you, who are part of the Black community, it was disappointing to see that there was not a sense of ease to get into BBPA. But also I have also some biases and different conversation I have too about like how different Black communities in different cities and provinces of Canada moves. And I feel like Toronto has a high level, and I'm going to say it, of elitism. So that's not something that I really see or saw in comparison to other Black communities in other cities, because I've lived in St. Catharines, Edmonton, Montreal. And so there's different, every culture has their own like pros and cons kind of thing. But that's one thing that I did notice is the sense of elitism here. And I thought, as someone coming from the outside, who used to be in Toronto, left and come back, I was like, well, and even you're trying to build yourself up. I'm like, well, there's a sense of elitism, and it's the sense about like, in networking and in business, it's all about who you know, but ingrained in our community as the Black community, where we come from a lineage and ancestry of community, I didn't think it was that deep. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
But
I don't think you keep on saying it's a different conversation, but it's all.
But it always connects, right?
And this is why when the response that we received when the inquiry was made was kind of like, who are you to question us? Right? And we're going to delegitimize you and this inquiry and, go and mind your business.
Yeah.
Right?
I've seen that a lot.
One first time. And I think the board failed. And I'll say that plain. The board failed at their initial response to the inquiry. Right. And then failed a few times after that. Right. And then has been failing all the way. There's been some wins. I get it. But again, this idea of accountability. Who are you accountable to? You're accountable to the community.
Yeah.
Right. So you're supposed to be communicating with the community on a regular basis. Here's what's up. Here's what we did with your money.
Yeah.
Here's what we're going to do to try to find out where your money went and how we're going to get it back, if we can get it back. These are the things that really kind of rile me up. And I'm trying to kind of stay cool through this thing. But it's that idea of, we do not have to answer to you.
Yeah, that's wild.
Right? Because we're only, quote unquote, beholden to our funders. And if our funders didn't see anything wrong with this, then it's whatever. If we could still get our funding, then why are you guys bothering us? Why are you guys making a scene? Why are you guys making a spectacle? Why are you making so much noise? We're not accountable to you. And I think that you see that kind of attitude when it comes to many elected officials, right? Many CEOs, once they get a little bit too wealthy, right? And unfortunately, a lot of larger community organizations, right?
Yeah.
Forget that their number one boss is the community.
Mm-hmm. Especially an organization that's made by the community for the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melanie Hippies mentions or asks, do you really think you're going to get the answers to the question you seek?
If you're asking about Angelina getting the answers, I've already received them. I had the answers a long time ago. Right? Am I going to get the resolution that I seek? That's the big question. I don't know. And I think that really depends on the support of the community, right? So, for example, I'll talk about something that has been discussed is, this call to have the existing board removed entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm game. I understand that. However, who's going to step in to replace them? Right?
Right.
Who's going to get ready for the rebuild?
Right.
And that's a lot of weight. I think it's worthwhile. I do. I think it's worthwhile, especially if we start from a place of proper training and transparency.
Yeah.
Restructuring the bylaws and how the organization is governed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the BBPA could do some awesome transformational work, groundbreaking, literally and figuratively work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I believe that's possible, but that really relies on the community caring, right? Does the community give a shit?
That's a question
Right?
that I think BBPA with the new board, well, that's a big homework that they would have to do once they come back together with a new board and that's the new direction. Really, that would be probably step one, is how do we does our community care, and how do we not even let that, but how do we make them care? Who's it? Yuri Hutchinson says we need to work with other grassroots organizations and stop depending on one organization. One organization cannot save us, but help this organization and work together with them.
Yeah, I know that there is a wonderful lady that I met this week. Give me a second, like I don't want to say the wrong name. Pull her name up. So a special shout out to her. Let me find her name. Tiffany Gooch,
Okay.
Gooch. I just met her this week, and she was part of a organization or movement called Connecting the Dots that was really connecting a lot of the Black organizations to kind of work collaboratively. And I think that is a desire. It's tricky to have the organizations work together because everyone wants their own funding, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I also think that some organizations, because everyone's kind of running after that bag, if you will, running after that funding,
Yeah.
over into areas that perhaps they shouldn't be working in, right? One of the things that the BBPA does is they do have a scholarship fund, which is fantastic. It's great, but I'm not sure if, there's other organizations that provide, that's it. There's other organizations that provide scholarships for young people. The BBPA is the Black Business and Professionals Association, right? That should really be the focus on how do we help Black businesses, right? And really focus there, Black and professionals, right? And businesses specifically, because I know for a long time it was the professional side. So the doctors and the lawyers and the real estate agents and what have you. It should really be about the Black businesses. So the mechanics and the plumbers and the hairdressers and the trades, as well as the professionals, right? So I think the challenge that we have is that with folks kind of coming together and working together is that folks start stepping on each other's toes because their target audience is the same or over there. So I think the organization need to be very clear on their borders, and when a need arises, right, and it's presented to one particular organization, if it's not within your mandate, send it over to the next guy, right?
Yeah.
That actually focuses on this area. But again, that's that funding thing, right? How do I contort myself to get as much funding as possible through sponsorship or these government organizations or programs.
So as someone who's not, I mean, I'm not a member, how do we place accountability? How do we, for people who are like, you know what, this, you know, maybe some are discovering right now in this conversation, like, oh, I didn't know about BBPA, or now I'm getting a sense of, or I've heard about it, but I'm getting a sense of what's happening. And how do we place accountability or stay tuned? Or even asking them like, hey, what's going on? You know I'm not a member, but I am part of the Black community. I'm an entrepreneur, things like that. How do we place accountability and ask them to let us know what's happening, and how do we get involved, really?
Yeah, I think a couple things. The best way is to become a member, right? The best way is to become a member. Secondly, if you have a desire to see this organization operate better, volunteer to be on the board, put your name in there to be part of the change. And then thirdly, like I mentioned, there is a live that's happening on Sunday at 5 p.m. with Dr. Vibe.
Yeah.
Jump in that chat, right? Let the board hear from you. And I think
someone from the board will be there for that conversation, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I'm just tagging along.
Yeah.
Asking questions and kind of giving, because again, I have been working with members of the board throughout this process.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but try my level best. But yeah, getting on that live and asking the questions in the comment section. I think again, it was a really missed opportunity for the board, for the organization, to not do regular lives, to not have engage the public on a regular basis. It was a missed opportunity, because if we're trying to rebuild the organization, right? Why not?
Yeah, why don't you want to bring down why this is the perfect time to become extremely transparent with what's happening and what's going on and where you're going and how it's looking like.
Right. Why not engage the community? And I think that folks would be, empathetic and just gracious. They definitely would offer grace to the board if the board was actually engaging with them, right? And you don't necessarily need to talk about specifically the investigation, because I understand, the legalities around that, but talk about how can we make this organization better? There's this massive misstep, these huge oversights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lazy governance, call it what it is, right? How can we make the organization better?
Yep.
Right? Connecting with platforms like yours on a regular basis to talk to a younger demographic and how to get them engaged.
Yes.
And say, here, how can we rebuild the BBPA 2.0 or 3.0? Probably that's actually probably more accurate. The BBPA 3.0. How can we build it better for the next generation? Right? It was massive missed opportunities, and no matter how much I would speak about that and share that, it fell on deaf ears, and now it makes it, a lot of time has passed and more time is running out, and it's going to make it a lot more difficult for the organization to, go into its next phase, because again, that question, you have the organization relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's just, yeah. I like what you said, the volunteer. And when you're saying volunteer, there's so many different ways that we can volunteer, right? Like, do you think at the moment that, are they being open, or are they are you feeling like they're a little bit closed off in terms of like, hey, I see what's going on. What can I do to help? Like, there's a sense of, based on what you've mentioned, it's kind of like, they're kind of moving like, I don't know.
Who, when you say they, are you talking about
Like
the board, or are you
with
talking about
BPA, the board. Is there a sense with this interim board, let's say, that there's an openness to becoming a little bit more transparent, or it's still kind of 50-50?
Just say this is not an interim board,
Okay.
right? The current board that's there was elected prior
Okay.
to all of this happening. Now, the type, when you go on the website, you see interim chair, interim vice chair. It's because the chair, Ross, had to be removed, I guess you could say, and vice chair became chair, and then another board director became interim vice chair.
Got it.
Kind of how that happened. So the board is not interim. We were suggesting an interim board, right? Sorry, this is light here. We were suggesting an interim board, but that fell on deaf ears. There's, again, a lot of resistance to conducting this process differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody says, Chandy says, no governance, just rules on paper. D Don Mama, like it. I'm from out of the GTA. Is the BBPA the same as the Harry Jerome Awards?
Yeah, so the Harry Jerome Awards is a gala that's put on by the BBPA.
Okay.
So BBPA is the organization that puts on the Harry Jerome Awards.
Melanie, the Melanin Hippie says, I was a member for 1 year, I believe 2019. I was one of the youth. I've done lots of different things with BBPA. I tried to get a lot more youth involved. They're not interested. Yeah. The reason why is because we could see the leaders present were only in it for financial gain. Yikes. For someone who's there as
I would love to know what year she was a.
She said 2019, she believes. Yeah, around that time frame. Yeah, so just before the pandemic.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to the whole idea of elitism, right? I've said this before. I've said it on many different platforms that we cannot afford to be elitist in the Black community. We don't have the numbers for that.
We don't have the numbers, and it's not.
We don't have the numbers for that. You know what I mean?
That's true.
If we're in an environment where
we're not 10 million people like in the States, right? 10 million Black folks. I think there's
a class war amongst a speck of people. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would we divide the pie that way? It doesn't make any sense. So in terms of the comment about, the young people are not interested, that is 100% the fault of the BBPA.
Yeah.
That responsibility lies at the feet of the BBPA. The current board, previous boards. I was a young person when I was I was the youngest chair of the Harry Jerome Awards many years ago. I was in my late 20s when I got involved. Again,
what made you get involved? Being so young.
Right. It was a few friends were involved, and they said, hey, my first injection was I did the after party for one of the galas for the Harry Jerome Awards. And that was successful, again, because this is a desire to engage young people. And then the following year, I ran to be chair, and again, trying to keep as many young people involved as possible. But beyond the Harry Jerome Awards, what else is there? Of course, they have the scholarships, but again, what else is there, right? I think there's a challenge within our community. There's workshop galore, right? We have a plethora of mentorship opportunities. Like, a lot of, if you look at kind of the breakdown, a lot of the services provided from the BBPA is like workshops and mentorship or what have you, right? From folks that are probably making their money putting on these workshops as opposed to like people that are actually successful. And I mean,
Mm.
I have a real issue with this, that whole girl boss thing, the girl boss brunches. And you're like, oh, these people are so successful, they have so much money. Well, they have all this money because you're buying all their
Their courses. Oh,
you're
girl.
paying,
This
hundreds of dollars for their lunches and so on and so forth.
I was just having a conversation about that. Like, like this has been 2024 has been a very tough year for me. And I realize it's like all these courses or all these things when it comes to like, my world is content creation, right? So, and one thing that they don't really emphasize is the bottom line is you need money. It's like a business. You need money to be a content creator. Why are we not talking about this?
Yeah.
I didn't feel that, I came from a sense of for the past 10 years of being a content creator, podcasting is my world. I didn't realize how much like shit you need money to do like to be a podcaster, YouTuber, even an influencer, to get to the point where you start getting brand deals basically.
Mhm.
So, but it's like it's a business, right? So even in business, you got to spend money to make money, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so I think there's things that I think that the BBPA could do to be more relevant. There is a organization called Women on Board or Women Get on Board. It's an organization that helps, again, women sit on a lot more.
Is it Toronto based or is it like
it's
Canada wide?
I think they have meetups across the country and virtual meetups and so on. And one of the great things that they have on their website, some of it's free, some of it's for members, is they have a bunch of templates, a bunch of free templates.
Love that.
Right. And I'm like, that's such a simple offering. That's such a simple value add. Right. If I'm, here's some contracts, some free contracts. Right. That one of our lawyer or partners has prepared for us that women get on board. Yes, that's what it is. That's it. Here's a simple contract for you to use if you need to do whatever. So it could be a contract for a consulting contract, a real estate contract. And when I say real estate contract, I mean like a lease agreement of some sort. Like these, like just a quick how-to, here's things that you need to look for in this situation. Just think about all the businesses that we engage within our community, and what are some of the little annoying things that you're like, I wish I knew how to do this, and I can't afford.
Right, you get stuck. Yeah.
Any of those little things to consider that we could put on the website. It's easy, right? Using that beautiful Elm Street building as an address for a lot of people that need a PO box, right? They need a mailing address for their businesses, and it allows them to look a little bit more official, right? Or even doing a workspaces, right? The building is, and I'm not trying to put the BBPA on blast here, but I guess I am. But the building is underutilized, right? How can we use that building that people say, hey, I have an office at Elm Street, and it could just be a lounge or a cubicle or whatever, right? WeWorks did it, and then you pay a very small fee as a member. You pay a discounted rate as a member to use this space. We've talked about things like group insurance, group health insurance, group life insurance. Like there's a ton of things that the BBPA can offer its membership that is so easy.
Yeah.
And this is what I get for my membership.
And make it accessible. And make it accessible, because I do notice that there's a growing in our community. I'm just going to focus on ours, but there's a growing sense of there's a need, and if BBPA is not doing it, there's other people who are doing it and are creating these kind of like shared workspace, and you pay a membership and things like that. But when you have a nonprofit organization like BBPA, you're right, they should create spaces like this, kind of like what you're using this example of Women on Board, and make it accessible, because some of them, I'm going to say it, are way too pricey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not considering like let's look at the stats of our community, where we're at, and I'm not saying that there are some people in our community that can't afford them. They can, but it leans again on that whole elitism a little bit. And it's like, well, where is our community at in terms of, if we know statistically that there's not too many, or in comparison to other cultures in Canada that are entrepreneurs, and you are charging hundreds of dollars to be a member for these kind of spaces, and there's still like a sense of growth that needs to be made, or a sense of accessibility templates like you've mentioned that our community still don't know, then like, why make your space so pricey? Because we ain't there yet. You know what I mean? Like, as a community, we should, it's great that there are spaces like this, but to not make it a little bit, and I get it, hey, we all have bills, you know what I mean? We do. But also take into consideration a balance of, you could still make, put food on your table, but also make it affordable enough so that way you can help maybe the first 2 years. Let me help my community grow, start building more Black women to have to be entrepreneurs, or youth programs to help them learn on becoming financially aware, or the programs for Black men to when it comes to mental health, and I'm just using examples here. This isn't,
Yeah.
and it could be, and it doesn't have to be a Black man youth, but all together as our community, make it affordable enough. Like, okay, for the first 2 years, it's going to be this price in order to help elevate our community. And then once they're elevated, then I can charge more. Anyway, yeah.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And these are things that, again, I've spoken about, and I'm not just myself. I think there's other people. Like, nothing that I'm saying is novel or new. Folks have been speaking about this for a while. I just don't think they're listening. And that's concerning to me. It's frustrating. And I hope that folks that have great ideas, like Melanin Hippie,
Yeah.
I hope they are not too kind of turned off by their previous experiences with the BBPA. And I hope that they have enough fight in them still to be part of the new BBPA when that time comes, should that time come.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Your fact that you're tuning into this live, this is not the most interesting stuff to talk about. It's not, pop culture or celebrity news or what have you. So the mere fact that you're tuned into this live, I hope that is enough of a spark to say, okay, I'm going to participate in the rebuild. Organization.
Yeah.
My hat in the ring to get involved in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yuri mentioned earlier, I think it was a conversation where we talked about like grants and government. We keep looking at the government as a savior, while they only look to exhibit our communities and have our Black community organization that work with the government, with the watchdogs, to stagnate. Okay. The youth, and then he also added, the youths need to be community oriented first, then business oriented. So that's a good element for spaces like BBPA to think about. The Melanin Hippie also commented and said, Angelina, the tactics you speak of are only created when an organization cares about helping its community. They simply did not want to. They were only interested in personal financial gain. Yeah.
Yeah, and that breaks my heart that that's kind of the takeaway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that. Yeah, that's what has been displayed, right?
Yeah.
It breaks my heart that that's kind of the thought that folks have, is that these community leaders are only in it for themselves, only in personal gain. Because I'm telling you straight from the gate, I speak to this man once every week and a half at least, right? One of the founders of the BBPA, Dr. Denham Jolly, that was not his intention. This man is a civil rights activist leader in Canada. He is one of our greats. So I could tell you that was not his intention when he started this organization. And I'll also be really straight with you. Had it not been for my regular conversation with him, this man is in his 80s. If it had not been in regular conversations with him, I would not be on this live. I would not be doing this. I would not spend my time doing this. But to see his, I shouldn't say his legacy, the legacy of the organization dwindle like this, I want to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen, right? Because when he talks to me about the hardships that he's gone through, what he's done in this country, what he's done for his community, right? The fights that they had to fight. I'm like, my gosh, the least we can do is show up. The least we can do is show up.
He's done the labor and the hard work of creating a path, like a path.
The least we can do is grab back our stuff and be like, no, not under your watch. We're not going to allow this to fall to the wayside because of some greedy brutes. Right? Like we at the least that we could do, for great persons like himself and the many other founders and leaders in our community. I speak to a lot of elders and they've been guiding me this entire way. Kingsley Gilliam, I speak to him quite often as well, and he tells me the stories in the 70s, the 60s, and 70s here in Canada, and the organizations that they try to create and how the kind of operatives from the inside or outside worked against them to dismantle their efforts. Working on like just Pan-African initiatives here in Canada, working with Nigerian governments and so on and so forth. And all that took place that kind of tore apart a lot of those efforts. And I'm like, my gosh, if not now, when, right?
Yeah.
So see if we can get folks fired up, not based on the things that the previous group has done, not based on, our experiences 5-6 years ago or 10 years ago, but based on what we desire to see for ourselves and for our future. Someone, I can't remember the person that your comment you were reading before said that the youth have to be community minded before they're business minded. I agree 1,000%, 1,000%. So we at one point will be the elders. So how about we engage the youth? How will we make that our responsibility?
Yeah.
We now need to make that something that we have to do. We have to be community minded. And what does that mean for millennials, older millennials, Gen X to engage the Gen Zs and the alphas and the younger millennials? What does that look like? It means that we take back our organizations and steer the ship right. It means that we engage the younger people and say, hey, there's a thing going on. I'll come and pick you up and you can come out and participate and have those kind of we need to build our community. We can't wait for someone else to do it, obviously.
Yeah.
If you're pissed off about this, get to work. And I know that's tough because we are all working. This economy sucks right now, right? I get it. But if you're pissed off, let's get to work.
Well, one way that you've mentioned that we can get to work is, would you say to start, one way we can get involved and be in the know with BBPA is volunteering?
Yes, I think it's volunteering with your immediate community. So like we named a few organizations with Black Toronto Urbanism.
Yeah.
Of course, there is the BBPA. I understand the reluctance to get involved right now because
right now, yeah.
But email me, send an email to hello@skylarprojects.com. Message me or Sherry, like connect with whomever in the community, because like our tentacles are out there. So you'll connect back with one of us at some point. But just even if you're not volunteering for the BBPA, volunteer with a Black community organization. into the network, right? I know that the organizations like the JCA are looking for young people to come on and get involved. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there are a number of organizations that you can, Tropicana, I believe. There's a number of organizations that you can just lend a hand to. And it's simply sending an email. It's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my resume. I'd like to get involved. And sometimes they are burdened administratively. They don't have the resources. There might be a delay. Don't take that personal, because I know some people are like, well, I emailed and no one got back to me. I understand.
Some of them are doing two, sometimes have 1-2 jobs and running a nonprofit, so yeah.
Right. So just give them a little bit of grace. Give them a little bit of grace. But please, if you're pissed off about it, get involved. Get involved politically as well. Election season is upon us.
Yes.
Politically as well, because that also has a huge impact on where funds go in our community, is political engagement and I guess you say lobbying governments to get the funds to go where they need to. Volunteer locally within your city even, right? There's ways that we can transform our community, but it's not going to be sitting on the couch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody mentioned another organization. They said also the art focus groups like BAND, BAND.
Oh, yes.
I've never heard of this organization before.
Artist Network and Dialogue. Yes, Karen Carter. Gosh, yes, BAND. Oh, I love them. And I know we'll actually see some band artists when we head to NIA Center, that's doing the Black Art Fair going on this weekend. I think it started yesterday and it wraps up tomorrow. I think in any area of interest, there is a Black organization that could use your help. So pick one, but get involved, please get involved. Offer your expertise, your brilliance, your heart, your energy, your love to rebuilding the community, because nobody is coming to save you.
Yeah, we have to do it ourselves, for ourselves, and for our community.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much, Shirley, for allowing me to come on and speak.
No, thank you for pushing me to hey, let's do this. Let's have this conversation. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, it's been almost 6 months, if not more. But it's been almost 6 months since we spoke about it last. And I'm hoping that we'll have a good wrap up conversation tomorrow with Brian Duarte on Dr. Vibe. I'm really excited to hear what Brian has to say. And again, I think I love, therefore I feel like I can criticize, right? I can critique.
That's what it is. Like, any form of, sometimes people think, oh, why are you attacking? It's not. It's because you want to make sure that this organization continues, and something like this won't bring it down, and it's upholding the hard work that the people who started BBPA, that hard work, that path that they created is not in vain. You know what I mean? Because it would be sad to see an organization like that go simply because there are some people who try to sneak in their hands into the cookie jar kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, the existing board, there are some great things that they have done. Again, Brian Duarte, who is the vice chair, has done these. He had a Goliath task, right? This what has not been easy.
Mm-hmm.
I do not envy him, and my criticisms are not of him as an individual, because he doesn't operate by himself. Obviously, there is a board there. I don't envy him and all the hard work that he had to put in to have this organization, so have this audit go through. However, I can still acknowledge that there were some serious missteps, serious missteps right?
Mhm.
But I'm really glad or excited to have the conversation tomorrow, and I'm glad that we hopefully will have an opportunity to rebuild the BBPA. And I again said it before, it requires a community effort. No board is going to come in. I sure as heck I'm not going to come in and fix the organization, right? It requires community effort.
Absolutely.
To kind of come together and get it done.
So if people, you've mentioned your email, people can email you. You said hello@skylarprojects.com if they have any questions. It's particularly too in the question of like, okay, how can I get involved? We mentioned BAN, we mentioned the Toronto Black Urbanism. It seems like you have a slew of like, this like other organization that people should be aware of, Naya Center, things like that.
There's tons of them. There's tons of them.
That's the thing.
There's
so many
tons of them, and they are all looking for help, volunteers. There's a shortage of willing, eager, passionate volunteers, right? I know that it's tough to volunteer when your labor in your 9-to-5 environment is not being compensated adequately. So to give free labor is difficult. I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a great gift and sacrifice. And it's something that it is a sacrifice of love because our community, we're talking about the wages that we earn within our communities is definitely below what it should be. So to ask people to give more free labor is tricky, but it's required.
In order for us as a community to grow. Yeah.
In order for us as individuals to grow.
That's real. That's real. I like that. On that note, thank you so much, Angelina. Thank you for this conversation. So much is so needed. I look forward to the conversation tomorrow because I would like to hear from someone who is part of BBPA. And I'm really excited that you'll be there for a sense of accountability within that conversation. So check it out tomorrow. Dr. Vibe. He is on you. It's going to be live on YouTube and LinkedIn. I can't remember. Do you remember the time that it's going to be on? Is it 10 p.m.?
5 p.m. 5 p.m.
5 p.m. So it'll be 5 p.m. tomorrow. I really look forward to this. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So if you have thoughts, ideas, questions, that's
the time to ask the people, man. Like
positive
the folks will be online. So
criticism, critiques. Definitely that is the time to head over there tomorrow, 5 p.m. Dr. Vibe. Google Dr. Vibe and you'll be able to find where he'll be. So thank you again, Angelina.
Thank you, Sherry.
Have yourself a great day, everybody. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.